Come on, okay, looks like we're live. Looks like I messed up my backdrop again. How about that? Try to cover some of that up. Uh, Wanted to talk about a lot of things today, really. I kind of slowed down on my three lives a day because I'm having some financial and problems, and so I have to move out of my place. But enough about the sad stuff. Just want to talk about these wargaming. I still see the BROSR or Bro SR or whatever wars going on. It's getting a little dull, um, repetitious, and silly. But um, wanted to just talk about it just a little bit more. Try to maneuver away from the argumentative stuff and just talk about the policies and ideas because they're good. Um, I, I made a couple of videos last night. They may have been a little terse, not having the best week. I hope it didn't reflect too much into my things, but I did want to make some declarative and you know, animate stands. Uh, I don't see anybody being bullied. I just don't. So, um, kind of getting sick of that too, and the mockery is kind of childish. If you don't like the system, don't use the system. I really don't see anybody trying to convert you or push you into it. I understand that telling people they're playing wrong is a great way to spin them up, and that's also just trying to get a rise out of people is childish too. Um, so I think that angle of attack is not positive. But anyway, but I also saw that people talking about how mass combat has become more popular. So I just want to talk about wargaming and mass combat. I did a video yesterday, one of the other videos I did that didn't seem to get as much play as the other one was talking about one for one time, which I wish I could come up with a better. Well, I have, frankly. Now I haven't come up with it. I've come up with the idea of using a better term than one for one time, and that's simultaneity. That's what we used to use um, in wargaming back in the 70s and 80s, and that was something that was trying to be achieved. Everybody wanted simultaneity. Um, then the myths and cliches and complaints about complexity started coming out of certain people and started making the rounds in all the periodicals and digests of the time, and all of a sudden now, playing war games is just this crazy hobby that takes 8 years to finish a 5-minute battle and all this hyperbolic nonsense. But the idea was that people don't take turns on the battlefield, and that there should be some way to try to make everything happen um, at the same time. Now, that's difficult to do if you're not using a computer as far as visual goes, but there were ways to achieve that to some degree on the tabletop. And that's kind of where the one for one time thing comes in and all that, at least part of it, which I keep trying to repeat. I'm going if you watch these, I don't know that I have regular viewers. I hope I do, but I don't know. So far, I don't see anybody doing this. I made the mistake of going against Delver, Dungeon Delver, and his live. Had I checked the schedule as to when people were coming out, this was uh, the wrong time to do this. Really wrong time. And in fact, I may shorten this and try to start it up after Bill's done. So um, I'm because it's like I'm going to get my ass kicked in the Nielsen ratings here. Um, so I'll do it again. I opened this up because I also wanted just to talk to some people, but they're all watching Bill. Anyway, simultaneity. Yeah, the idea behind that was that trying to get things to happen at the same time, and there's techniques and tricks and ways to kind of get close to that in a game where there's two opponents facing off to one another. But there was all, and to me, it's interesting. I don't know how to make this sound like I'm saying that everybody's stupid or whatever. It's not even close to my intent, but I'm always afraid I'm going to come off that way inadvertently. But uh, I saw people banging their heads against the wall for decades trying to figure out a way to make, and myself included. I'm not pointing a finger, and it's everybody, but ways to do this. Um, Create simultaneity in a system or a game or a situation where there's just two opponents, and it's damn near impossible. There's been some clever attempts, and there's been some things that have gotten pretty darn close. But if all you need is a dude or a chick, whatever person, if you must, who's willing to be a judge, referee, DM, GM, whatever you want to call it, as an arbitrator, and that will make that sort of thing um, easy as pie. Now, I saw somebody today, I forget his name, say, well, what's in it for those people? What joy do you get out of being a referee? Well, um, Jeffro seems to enjoy it and talk about it being something rewarding, and perhaps it is for some people. Other people, I can see where they just be like, "Well, it's kind of a drag. I want to play the game. I don't want to be officiating it. I want to be playing it." That's what we uh, ran into. We being my game group. Same with Dungeon Master. To us, being the Dungeon Master was the chore. You were facilitating fun for everybody else at the expense of yours, and it wasn't popular to do. I I do it now, and I'm doing it with a Star Wars campaign, and I'm having a ball being the GM. But in 1987, if somebody said, "Hey, let's play D6 Star Wars," the last thing I'd want to be is the guy running the game. I'd want to be a player. So, and that's what the idea of my business was going to be. Was going to be the person who says, "Well, it's a stinky job, but if you try this, you'll see that it has a worth." Uh, the BROSR guys are kind of doing that, but granted, some of them are doing it in an abrasive and somewhat obnoxious way that's only causing controversy and division. And maybe they would be best off trying to, what's the term? How to get something like you catch more flies with honey, or how they ever go. So, um, and that might be a good idea. And so that's kind of what I'm trying, because the ideas they're talking about are good ones. And I'm not saying you have to like them. I'm saying this. I'm saying it's just like sushi. Growing up as a kid in the Midwest, with a tenuous immigrant connection to Germany. I was a kid. I wasn't an army brat. I was an immigrant, but I was a wee boy, and it's almost a footnote. But nonetheless, the last thing that was coming into my stomach based on that heritage was sushi. and and I just the idea of it, ew, gross. Until I lost a bet, or I made a deal with somebody, and I said, if you try some of my German food, I'll try some of your sushi, and we'll see how it goes. And I tried some sushi, and I was pleasantly surprised. And now I will enjoy hitting the sushi joints from time to time. And that's it. Give it a try. You might be surprised. This is it's that simple. Don't base your judgment off the idea or the utility of trying the ideas um, by what you read on Twitter, because it's just a bunch of henpecking and childish horse shit going on out there. Pardon my French, but it's really getting stupid what people are saying to each other. Jesus, grow up. Um, but you might really find those kind of things enjoyable. So, um, once if you've ever played a war game, or even a strategy like war game, um, that isn't super abstract. I mean, Risk and Stratego are strategy war-ish games, and they're great games. And I'm not putting them down by saying they're not war games. Some people might argue they are, but whatever. They're a little bit too abstract to count in this. But if you played something like, hell, even D&D miniatures, or any of the old WotC miniature games, just for, they weren't always popular, but Axis and Allies miniatures, um, or like the video I did, even Chainmail. Chainmail had the option of having a simultaneous um, player turn, as opposed to here, player one makes all his moves, shoots all his stuff, and all that, and then player two does the same. Instead, doing it somewhat at the same time creates a completely different complexion of the battlefield, a totally different game experience. Just playing the same game in a way of making it simultaneous. Now, if you're somebody who isn't a big war gamer, but yeah, back in the day I played a couple of squad leaders or a couple of Panzer Blitzes or something like that, or whatever, then just imagine that system where everything was occurring at the same time, as opposed to divided up into categories of turn sequence and player turn, instead of this I go you go thing. It it's phenomenal. Now, if you have the referee, then he can also track line of sight and vision and all that stuff. So you have the ability to hide. If you're two players looking at a map or a miniatures board, and you have two armies, whether it be 5 miniatures in a skirmish or 50 miniatures in an army versus army, whatever the numbers are, but you have two forces opposed to one another on a table. You're going to see everything. You're standing around the table, you see where everything is. But if you go the Kriegspiel way, which is what I use to describe what other people are in this TTR, tabletop RPG circle that I've been locked into by Twitter. No offense, if you're following me, I find a lot of people very interesting. I try to converse with them when I can, but I know that you get stuck in these ruts. The algorithm does, and a lot of the people that I see on a regular basis, a lot of them are doing a lot of bickering back and forth and shit. But if you just give it a try, you'd be surprised. Don't worry about its context in your campaign as of yet. Just come up with the idea of, I'd like to see a bunch of elves and a bunch of, but go old school. Go Tolkien, elves versus orcs, or, it doesn't have to be one of the great battles. It could just be some skirmish, whatever. Just think of some, and try doing simultaneity. Try having a person that is willing to officiate between two combatants. Might be hard to do. Everybody wants to spend their time playing, but maybe if you could try it. If I ever get back on, this is what I'm telling to you now is what I've been trying to sell to people for years and haven't been able to burn through algorithms and get people's attentions. And of course, now I'm going to be somewhat stunted because of my financial issues. But these are the services that I want to do, and I try to get people to do it as a free demo so they could experience it. Why do I want to pay you for this? Come and play it for free, give it a shot, get a taste of it, and then realize if you were in a paying situation where there was twice, 3 times, or more the amount of people involved, you would have an amazing time. But where you don't see, if somebody's hiding behind some woods, you don't know until you either find a way to scout that out or they ambush you or something like that. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. And the Kriegspiel, otherwise known as the BROSR type of system, does that. It provides a limited intelligence on the battlefield, or even in the campaigns general. You may not know what the enemy party or parts of your party that have separated are doing because they're not near you. So it's the limited information, the simultaneous movement, uh, an arbitrator that handles all the combat, so you don't have to calculate THACO or look up a 2-hit table. The GMs are doing all that for you while you play. And instead of playing a bunch of NPCs, you may be playing against other brains, and it's a greater challenge. So uh, I can talk about that in detail if there was anybody here, but there's not. So, and I did say I was going to leave this open, and I might, but I I hate to make a liar out of myself, but had I known that Dungeon Delver uh, was going on, I would have just watched his live and then done this later on tonight, which I might do. So that might be the case there. I might do this again, reboot, because I'm sitting here like I say, I don't mind talking to a few people, but 15 minutes of talking to nobody seems kind of like a stupid idea. So we'll try it again. We'll reboot. I'm bumping the stream up, so I'm not competing with Dungeon Delver anymore here. So try again.